he's just a good guy. Maybe it sounds cheesy coming from another guy, but he's a really sweet guy. And he has a really sweet heart. And he's very wise, and he loves God, and he loves you, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. So I'm going to say a prayer for him. God, we just can't thank you enough for our brother Joseph. I just pray right now that you speak the message through him fully, that you've given him, and just empty him of himself. And again, just pray that you prepare our hearts and minds to receive that in each special way that you have for each of us, and that we're just completely open to your message. Awesome God. Amen.
All right. I'm a little disappointed I can't use the Britney Spears mic. Whatever. You can do everything you want. So today we're talking about kingdom training. In just a little bit, I'll get into the theme verse out of 1 Corinthians. So let me get my notes open before I start. I want to start off with just a story, a parable Jesus tells about the kingdom. If you guys... if I start going like this and we're not getting anything, just kind of look at me. Also, start yelling at me if I go off on tangents about Harry Potter or anything. Just kind of Joseph. Okay, so we're going to start off. In a little bit, we'll get to kingdom training. I have some notes for that, but I wanted to share about just the parable Jesus said. So let's go to Matthew 13, verse 44. I'll go ahead and start. Jesus says, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in joy went and sold all he had and bought that." So it's up on the screen if you want to read along with it, or read it again. So I had 3 takeaways from that real quick that I want to share, go over. The first one is that we have to give everything. Amen. And the man, what does it say that the man did in the verse? He sold all he had. He sold everything he had. Why do you think he did that? Say that again? So he could buy the field. Any other thoughts? Why did he do that?
What he had found was more valuable than what he had.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He wants what he's found more than what he's got now. So the question real quick. Oh, another thing. Cabin leaders, I'll ask some questions, and here you can write them down and go over with your cabin groups. I'll give you some discussion questions later on, but feel free to write anything down, take any notes. So the question here is just, do you see the kingdom as more important than anything else? Is it most important? Is it your number one priority? Or is there something else still? Is the things that you already have, are they still more valuable to you than the treasure you've got right in front of you? C.S. Lewis said, and this is a paraphrase, I didn't have time to look up the quote. It's, we trade away a vacation at the beach for making mud pies at home. And what he's saying there is that we have this chance to go on a trip of a lifetime. And he's talking spiritually here. We have a chance to go be with God. And we trade that and we keep what we already have and stay where we're already at. You'll be willing to give up anything and everything. We've got some girls who came here this week who skipped their school's cheer camp to be. You know, they were willing to take any consequence, willing to quit, willing to disappoint coaches, friends, parents who invested money in that. You know, we've got a junior high boy here who's skipping a family trip to be here. He wanted to go. He missed it last year, wanted to go, went back and forth, and finally decided this is more important to him. This is where I wanted to be. We have a guy who just graduated a couple years back, was on drumline and quit because of just how serious everyone took it. It was just too big of a deal to them. That cost him a friendship. He got a pretty nasty email from band directors and stuff like that. If you're willing to give up everything, people are going to be disappointed sometimes. If you're going to frustrate people, it might be tough to make that decision. But you're giving up something that you know isn't as valuable as what you found here in the kingdom. This week was more important to those teens than whatever they do back home. This had more value to them. That just speaks a lot about them and their character. The second thing about that parable, we'll start with a couple of questions here. So where did he find that treasure? It's pretty easy. In a field, right? He found it in a field. Where was it in the field? Hidden. It was hidden. So how did he find a hidden treasure in a field?
He was looking for us.
He searched.
He burnt the field.
Maybe. That's one tactic. He had to look for it. It wasn't just like, what do you do with the treasure? What do pirates do? If the map goes, they do what? To bury it. He was digging. I was reading about this story, and the guy that I was reading, his name was Barclay, he was saying that this guy was probably just doing some work in the field. He was working, he was digging deep and found something. The kingdom isn't a surface level thing. You have to dig deep and find it. Back then, people, Jewish people would have understood this example more than we do. We don't bury treasure. I don't get paycheck on Friday and go and bury it, so make sure I have it next week. This is what they did is they had, their valuables were gold and silver and kind of things that were passed down. And they were oppressed by the Romans and different people from time to time. And so what they would do to make sure they kept those things is if they were worried about it, they would bury it. So what happened here is probably somebody in the past buried that treasure, and then they passed away, that land was transferred to somebody else or something, and then one day this guy's working for whoever owned it, and he's digging, he's working hard, and he finds it. And so, he says here, he goes and sells everything so he can buy that. So that's what he did. The thing here is that, I wrote something weird there. Okay, so what's digging a hole like? Is that super easy? Has anyone here ever dug a hole like a couple feet deep? Yeah, how's that? It's hard to just get a shovel into the dirt for me. I'm trying to fall over. That's not very fun. If you're going to dig a few feet deep, and if you're hiding your most valuable possession, you're not just putting them right under a thin layer of dirt. You're digging deep so that only you can find them. So this isn't an easy thing. You must have been digging pretty deep. Being a kingdom person is hard. It takes work. We dig deep to get the junk out of our hearts to make room for the treasure from God. That treasure won't be on the surface. The kingdom isn't something that's shallow, it's deep. But it's worth the effort, it's worth the digging. So we have to be willing to do that. So the third thing here from that story is just, what's the guy's attitude? How's he feeling during this? It says it. Joy. He was joyful. He was feeling joyful. He was excited about his discovery, and he was thrilled to go and get rid of everything else to have what he found. He was thrilled about that, thrilled about this treasure. To him, it was a no-brainer. There was no mistaking that this was the right choice. It's totally worth it. So the question for you guys is, giving up everything and selling all you have a source of joy to you?
No.
Is that decision, is that thought process, is making Jesus Lord just a source of joy in your life? Or is it something that, I've got to go to church? I don't want to be a king. Stuff like that. Or just whatever that is. Does that thought excite you? Or are you hanging on to the mud, to the old treasures, the thing that's worth, not so much, instead of getting the treasure? So there's some questions there. Let's get on to the training part. Kingdom training. Can you put up the 1 Corinthians verse for me?
No, we don't have it.
What?
I'll work on it.
Okay. Got to do some work. All right, we're going to be in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24 through 27. Give you guys a second to get there. All of a sudden, I forgot where Corinthians is. What's up?
It's in the New Testament.
Oh, New Testament. You guys good? All right. No. Okay, I'll read this to you guys. 1 Corinthians 9, 24 through 27. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified from the prize. So what I'm going to do now is kind of go quickly through just some training tips, some kingdom training tips. What these are is I've kind of made, like if you went to the gym and you got a personal trainer or whatever, they give you just some practical steps on how to get the most out of that. So I'm going to give those to you and kind of make a spiritual comparison for you guys. So take some notes here. Later on in your discussion time, you're going to be kind of looking for one that you're good at, one that's a strength for you, and one that's a weakness. So just kind of be thinking along those lines. So number one, your trainer will tell you to be consistent. Be consistent. You got to show up at the gym. You won't see results if you only go in once a month. So you got to be there. Spiritually, if you want us to help you train, you have to show up to stuff. You have to be committed. You have to make that a priority. You have to be there. You have to keep going. Or else we can't get much traction and we kind of see any growth in the long run. If you rarely have a quiet time, you're not going to see much results there. If the only time you worship God is on Sunday mornings, you're going to have to spend half of worship kind of getting back into that mindset every single week. That's just what happens. You have to be consistent. Number two, you have to set goals. Set goals. You need to know what you're wanting to accomplish when you walk into the gym. When you get a membership, they're going to always ask you, what do you want to do? You want to lose weight? You want to get stronger? Do that type of stuff. They always ask you that stuff. So what are you working towards? You need to make a workout plan so that you're not lost every time you go to the gym and just end up picking up dumbbells every time. Because if you don't have a plan, you're going to do what's easiest for you. Do what you always do. And your time spent there won't be nearly as effective as it could be. So spiritually, we need to build a vision. That's the activity we're doing this week. Spiritually, to train yourself, you need to build a vision. You need to be asking questions like, where do I want to be spiritually in 1 year, 5 years, towards the end of my life? What are my spiritual goals that I want to accomplish? So you need to make a game plan for your life. If you don't seek God's plan for you, you'll end up doing just kind of anything that will get you through that day. Your day will be pretty meaningless. You'll accomplish small things, but you'll really make progress toward a bigger goal. So make a plan. Number three, you need to push yourself. If you go to the gym, they're going to tell you to push yourself. Lift more weights than you've lifted before. You have to lift more to get more muscle, build that muscle. I think Sean might have this shirt, but there's also a sign in my gym for that insanity class. And they say, train insane or remain the same. There's too much rhyming in that. Train insane or remain the same. So if you don't train harder than you ever have before, do more than you ever have before, go harder at that, then you're not going to see very much results. So you're going to see the same results. You're doing the same thing. So you have to push your limits to expand them. Spiritually, this looks like getting out of your comfort zone. You need to be willing to dance during worship. Have you ever done that before? Have you ever danced during worship? Do you lift your hands? Do you get on your knees? Do you close your eyes? Do you speak up during good news sharing? God's given you a mouth, not to keep it closed and silent, but so that you can speak about Him and speak about the good things He's doing for you, that He's doing in your family and other people. You need to meet new people and make new friends. Read a book of the Bible you've never read before. Read a book about the Bible or about being a Christian that you've never read. Ask a youth worker to study the Bible with you. Push your limits. Get out of your comfort zone. And your comfort zone will expand. Number 4, you need to eat right. How much of, some of you are knowledgeable than I am. Don't they say that like the right diet is about 80% of being healthy? Something like that, 80%? So your workouts aren't going to do you a whole lot if every meal is eating off the dollar menu at McDonald's. Alright? Diet is really important. Going to church won't do you any good if that's the only spiritual part of your week. It's not going to do you any good. And really, out of all the things you could do, that's probably the least beneficial. Having a spiritual friendship is more beneficial than hearing a sermon. know? To me, at least. Why do you guys think camp has the results that it does? Why do you think camp's kind of a spiritual highlight for the year? What do you guys think? We're here all week? Yeah? You got a week out here? Devin?
You have fun every day.
Yeah, you have fun. And it's positive fun. It's not negative fun where you make fun of people. You know, you spend time every day in the quiet time. Spend multiple times a day in prayer. You get to worship twice a day. Hear a sermon, about living for Jesus twice a day. You get to walk and talk with a peer or a spiritual leader every day. All that stuff. I doubt that many of us are good at doing one of those things every day back home. If 1 week out of 52 each year looks like this, then no wonder it's a good highlight. Everything else is kind of downhill. And I get that, some of it, you can't recreate that. You can't go to a sermon twice a day back home during the school year, stuff like that. Yeah, but you can be close to God. You can be having spiritual conversations. You can be, meeting with a youth worker. You can be worshiping on your own every day. Those are simple things you can do every day. Easy things to do. Something else here. This is an example that we've used a lot of illustration. It's just that if you play with trash, you're going to start to stink too. So if your diet's junk, you're going to have a junky life. You're going to end up with a junky heart. If stuff comes out of your mouth, it's going to be junk because your thoughts are junk. So that's what happens there. Number 5, you need to work out with someone. Work out with someone. This helps make sure you go to the gym. This helps you learn new exercises to do. If the weight gets too heavy, you can have someone there to spot you and help you. So you need to have the right friends. Not just friends, but the right ones. Eddie Howard, whenever he goes hungry, he'll talk about, you show him your friends, and you can see your future. You can see your eternity. Show me your friends, and I can show you your future. The types of friends you have are going to either pull you up or pull you down. Your friends make you stronger. Do they keep you from going to the gym to work out? Number 6, you need to get a personal trainer and get the right personal trainer. If you go to the gym, I see this all the time. There's people wearing like a trainer shirt, and then while the person's working out, they're just kind of looking around. And then you can spot ones that are really helping them. Say, no, you got to bend your knees different. No, you're doing that wrong. Let me show you. Stuff like that. So you need to be picky there. If you're going to work, if a workout is new, you get advice from a pro who's done it before. For us, spiritually, this looks like setting up a time with a youth worker. It's like having a mentor in your life. And would you rather get advice from the dude with the locker next to you at school, from the MTV comedy sitcom that's just trash? Or would you rather be, an adult who's lived through what you've gone through, who's done it in a godly way, who has a godly marriage, a godly kids, a godly family? Who do you want to get your advice from? So the right personal trainer. Number 7 here is ask for advice, accept criticism, and make changes. All 3 are 1 point. I just kind of decided that. So I'll say it again. Ask for advice, accept criticism, and make changes. When you're at the gym, you need to make sure you're asking people if you're doing that workout. Because if you're doing it wrong, you're going to hurt yourself. You're not going to be able to get it right for a while. You need to listen when people tell you to make changes and fix it. You get godly advice from your life. You're getting that, seek that out, ask for it. Accept corrections and reviews. Don't push that away, don't run away from it, don't stop going to group because a youth worker said something you didn't like.
That's right.
Correct your mistakes. The last one that I have on my notes, you need to get some rest. Your body needs time to recover sometimes. You can't go to the gym all day long every day. You'll wear yourself out, you'll get hurt because you're so tired. You need to know your limits. Spiritually, just practically here, you need to know when you have too much on your schedule, too much on your plate. You need to make sure the stuff you don't trim off of your schedule. You good? Okay. So you need to make sure that the stuff you trim off to make sure you get rest isn't, the spiritual stuff. When I have a busy day, my quiet time goes out the window sometimes. That can't be how it is. Or else you'll end up having the low point weeks for the rest of the year. Make sure you invest that time. Learn to say no to stuff. If you say yes to everything, you're going to have to stop doing something else. So learn to say no to things that are a distraction or that you don't need to do. I was reading a book one time called The Fuel and the Flame. They were interviewing, I want to say it was like a world-class piano player, maybe? Violinist. And they asked her, I think it was her, just how they got to be so good at that. And her response was intentional neglect. She intentionally neglected and didn't do things that were going to keep her from getting better at the violin. And she made sure that all of her decisions, the things she was doing, got her better at that. Are the decisions you're making, the friendships you have, the guy or girl you've been texting, the shows you're watching, the music you're listening to, is that making you stronger or weaker? Is it a stumbling block or is it something pushing you further? Intentional neglect. All right, so those are the kingdom training tips. The next thing we're going to go over are just a few things I call kingdom muscles. So you need to grow some kingdom muscles. Tammy, or is Ronnie here? Let's see. Tammy, how many muscles are in the human body?
A lot.
A lot. Like one or two? A dozen?
80-ish.
80-ish?
There's a bunch.
I looked it up. I looked up a little bit, and there's like 700 skeletal muscles.
See, there's a lot.
See, there's a lot. That's what she meant to say. It's just hands. She's tired.
There's a
All right.
bunch.
And then they were saying something else about how there's close to 70,000 total muscle. Like, what? How?
80-ish.
Somewhere between 80 and 70,000. So anyone's guess is good. I won't be too critical there. So these kingdom muscles that we're talking about, these are what a well-trained, well-disciplined disciple has developed. Those are what this list will be. You have these ready to kind of flex when you need them. These muscles, these characteristics are there. Where's my list of kingdom muscles? Here we go. So there's quite a few, so I'll go quickly, just kind of take some notes. Make sure I'm not doing too much time here. Oh, 3 minutes. Okay. All right. Let's just go down the list. Generosity. The disciple is someone who gives. They look at their property as God's property, the kingdom property. So, the kingdom can use it. The Von Runnens are really good at this. They had a boat. People could borrow it. They take people out on it. They take people borrow their cargo halfway across the country in it. And stuff like that. They have like families, multiple families living with them right now, probably. So their house is just God's house. That's the way they look at it. The disciple needs to have a boldness and a willingness to challenge muscle. You have to be bold. My friend Brad Davis, he kind of studied the Bible with me when I was in college. He was willing to ask tough questions, kind of get in my face, and just make me give an answer to his questions. That's a muscle that the disciple has to grow. To be a disciple that can help disciple other people. My friend Brandon is a very spiritual and wise person. I talked to him, and he's just got the best advice in the world, probably better than most people. That's just where his mind's at. He asks himself spiritual questions. He gives spiritual advice. So that's a muscle we have to have. Cale he has a really strong, passionate muscle. He's just got a heart for people in here and for God. You'll hear that all week long from him. Scott Dugan's got the fighter muscle. He's someone who fought for his walk with God. He's not here, so no point in crying, I guess. So, I don't know, I get emotional when I start giving examples. So I guess cry voice, it's kind of halfway going right now. But he was willing to take his kids out of school, put them in another one, so they'd be in a better situation. We have people who will take their kids because they want them to play on the sports team and move somewhere. They'll move somewhere so they can have a job, and their kids have to move to go to a different school. for all sorts of reasons, and then we look at someone who does something like that, as well, that's a little too much. That's over the top. He was fighting for his kids. Let's see. My buddy James Brown, he's got a real strong thankful muscle. If you give him anything, it's like, thank you so much. He won't stop. My buddy Casey was giving me, he offered me a pair of shoes one time, and they were too small, so I'm like, hey James, you want these? He's like, thanks, Joseph! Didn't give anything. So good. I would have kept him with it. But he was on the phone. I think with Keith Dugan one time, Keith Dugan kind of helped him get a job, and it was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. He was like all he was saying. He's so thankful and so humble. Let's see. We have to be loving and serving. We have to be able to love people abundantly, I think is what John said yesterday. Love till it hurts. The type of love used to cost us. We need to serve. What was Jesus if not the perfect example of a servant? We need to be joyful, patient. We need to endure hardship. We need to be uncompromising. We need to respect and be submissive to authority. I'll slow down some guys. You going to repeat a couple of those? Are you good?
Yeah.
Loving, serving, joyful. Did I say that? You need to endure. Disciples need to be uncompromising. We need to respect and submit to authority. You caught up? All right, let's move on. We need to be hopeful. Disciples need to be hopeful. We don't need to be the complainers of the world. So many times that's what I do. I just complain about stuff. I don't know. It could be the stupidest stuff too. That's what I get hung up on complaining about. Don't be that person. When you go to school and when you're around your friends, flex the hopeful muscle, the joyful muscle, the positive muscle. You need to be compassionate and have a passion for lost people. The disciple has eyes for people that are hurting. He's compassionate for them and loves them, like Jesus does. I missed another one. But when down here, the disciple just needs to have thick skin. I think I've heard Christy talk about this a few times, but just how you you're consistent with people. They hurt you, they push you away, you're consistent. You don't let that get to you. You don't stop discipling people just because the last person you discipled decided to stop pursuing God. You don't just abandon everything. You have to have that thick skin to keep going, to get back up and do it again. You need to be merciful and gracious. Who is God if He's not merciful and gracious to us? Disciples need to be people known for their mercy and their grace towards people. We need to have that muscle. It needs to be strong. We need to be team players. We need to be flexible. Don't be difficult to work with. Be easy to work with. Bring a positive attitude to a group or whatever that is. And I think this is my last one. I kind of was skipping around instead of going in order for some reason. Just faithful to God. Disciple needs to be faithful to God. And I think it's 2 Chronicles 16:9. Probably the first time ever I got a verse right, if I'm right. It says that God His eyes are ranging through the earth looking for hearts that are wholly devoted to Him, that are fully committed to Him, that are faithful to Him, that are seeking Him, that are pursuing Him. So you need to have a heart that's all about God. And that's the type of person God's looking for, the type of disciple He wants. So let me give you a couple questions here to go over, and then we'll break up for our discussion time. Or I'll let Kale come up if he has anything to say. I can close it out?
Yeah.
Perfect. So some questions for the Kingdom training tips. That was the kind of jam advice stuff. So if you think of one that you're good at. Which one are you good at? And the advice you can give to your group about how to be good at that. All right? So pick one of those training tips that you're strong at, and maybe give a piece of advice about how the other people in your group can be good at that. Does that make sense? Okay? Second one, for that one, still in the training tips, is which one is your weak spot, your weakness? Which one is your weakness? And then try to think of a goal to get stronger at that, or a goal to get better there. Let me know when you're ready, I'll give you the next one. Good?
Yes.
Okay. For kingdom muscles, which kingdom muscle is weak on you? Which kingdom muscle is weak on you? The follow-up question here is name someone that you know that has that muscle and it's strong. I did that kind of in my talk. I listed some people who have those strong kingdom muscles, the specific ones. So list out the one that's weak. Name a person you know that's strong at that. And that's the goal there is to spend time with them. If I need to grow and be compassionate or generous, I need to spend time with people that are compassionate, so I can learn how to do that. Learn by watching. So, which one's a weakness? Who's somebody you know that's strong at that? And just, the thing there is just to spend some time with them. And then just kind of wrap up with maybe a takeaway from this and your quiet time as well. Sound good?
This question, just to clarify, so on the first two questions, what are you good at, and then the weak spot,
Yeah.
is that referring to anything in the talk, or is that referring just to the training?
That was the training tips, the kind of the gym comparisons I gave.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. And then, so what we're going to do is we're going to break. You're going to go straight to your discussion times, and they need to be up by the trailer at 11. All right. So that's 40 minutes. That's plenty of time to do your discussion. All right, guys? So go to break and go to where you need to talk yesterday.